we really need to define what successful people really means. I mean, there is so much school of thought out there that, oh, you know, you see these headline videos, 100 million in 7 years. Okay, well, if he reaches that, then he will have been successful. You know, oh, retire on $3 million. Okay, great. If you reach that, you will have been successful. But we see that the wisdom in life tells us that true success has nothing to do with a number for so many different reasons, because we can stumble attempting to reach the number and ignoring our true path in life that would get us to where we really want to be in life.
Camera's probably like 10 years old. I don't even think so.
Yeah, for example, right? Like that guy that wants to make 100 million. If his goal is 100 million, but he only makes 50, is he unsuccessful? If he only makes 10 million, is he unsuccessful? If he only makes 1 million, is he unsuccessful? He will believe he's unsuccessful. You see my point? Welcome back to Frank and Angie's Retire Early Lifestyle, where we talk about all things getting out of the rat race and living the life you were meant to in the here and now. And you know that I love to dispel a lot of so-called wisdom in the internet. Should we call it internet wisdom? If there is such a thing, quote unquote. And so I've got like a dozen things here that I'm looking through this, and it's like all the things we are being told successful people ignore in life. And so the idea here is that, yeah, if you want to be successful, don't do this. And so I'm looking at it and going, okay, I'm going to spend a few minutes going over some of these things for you. I won't hit all 12 of them. I'll just kind of brush over some of them just to show you why I'm not really going to cover them. And then I'm going to focus on, as I usually do, on the top handful of things that I believe are really important, the things that we really don't want to miss the mark on, and we really want to get a clear understanding on, because really, if we sit here and ignore these top things, we are likely to actually lose our focus and get led on the wrong trajectory. So very important. That's why I make these videos. Now, some of the things I won't spend much time on are things such as dwelling on the past. Well, I've talked about things like this, dwelling on the past. We don't have the past. The past is water under the bridge. You can't cry over spilt milk. Come on. Successful people don't dwell on the past, but they learn from the past. So it's not that really that we want to ignore the past. We want to learn from the past, and we want to focus on it enough to learn our lesson. Because if we just ignore it, okay, I said I wasn't going to spend a lot of time on it. Next thing, worrying about the future. Well, that's not something we want to be doing. We want to perhaps have some plans and some idea what direction to go to, and have a focus of what our trajectory should be. But to actually worry is a total waste of time. So no, we don't want to be doing that. Scrolling through ads and social media trends, and this is the kind of thing where if you're not careful, you find yourself just endlessly scrolling through more and more information. It's just a waste of time and a distraction, and we end up losing our focus on it. Those are important things to be ignoring, and successful people do and should ignore all of those things. Those are very good. So I'm going to go ahead and get to the handful of things that I think are going to be the top most important out of these dozen things. One of them is reading negative news. Now, this is the kind of thing that, that sounds like it makes a lot of sense. Successful people don't want to waste their time. They ignore negative news. This is true. I have made many comments even years ago that I don't read headlines. I don't read negative news. I know that back in the day, they've always used to come out with all this negative news all the time. Back in the Y2K days, my son once asked me, he heard a newscast on television say there was a rice shortage, and I didn't debate the issue with him. I just told him to jump in the car. We went to the store. I showed him the racks were full of rice at the store. There was no rice shortage. Perhaps somewhere on the globe there was some kind of a temporary rice shortage. But why do we need to be listening to the bad news of some spot on the globe that does not relate to anything that we can do about it in our everyday lives. So, yeah, we want to ignore negative news. On the other hand, we don't want to ignore all news, and we don't want to ignore all negative news. Like, if there's a hurricane on the way, we want to know that. So we don't, I mean, yes, we're going to want to ignore most of the negative news in the sense of the headlines and all of these distractions and all that. But there are some negative news we absolutely do not want to ignore. We want to do some reading. We want to know, for example, if we're a stock market investor, we want to know if, earnings are coming in low, or if companies are laying off people. And so there's a certain amount of so-called negative news, but to say, just to give a blanket statement, these are things that successful people ignore in life, as if it's, this great quote-unquote internet wisdom. You knew I was going there. And to say reading negative news, just stay away from all of it, that's just not correct. The second thing is, we're being told, is that successful people ignore frustrations of everyday life. Now, a lot of these things that I'm covering, they sound sensible. They make sense. Yes, we don't want to read negative news. Yes, successful people ignore frustrations of everyday life. But what we really want to do with frustrations of everyday life is not really ignore them. So this is very bad advice. What we want to do is not allow them to affect us negatively, okay? Because if there's frustrations in life, then they are causing a frustration. But we don't allow them to get to us to cause a frustration level to go to an unacceptable level. For example, if you're commuting every day, that is a frustration in life. You don't ignore that. You don't want to ignore that. What you want to do is focus on a solution. And ignoring it is just going to keep you in the frustration. Whereas dissatisfaction to action is the principle here. There's a counter principle that is positive countering negative. It's like a cold room. You blow in hot air, it becomes warm. You've got a frustration in life. You counter it with a dissatisfaction with positive action, which is focusing on a solution. And so very bad advice. And the next thing is other people's judgment. Yes, this is correct. Successful people should ignore other people's judgment, but it depends. You can't just say across the board. I mean, you can say it, but it wouldn't be correct to say that, because it depends on who it is. If it's somebody that you respect in life, if it's one of your peers in life, if it's somebody that is at a more advanced level in life, regardless of what particular part of life we're discussing, whether it has to be with spiritual matters or with work related or business related, if they're at a higher level than you, then their judgment should be welcome. And it's just that the word judgment would change and it would become true advice, which sometimes involves some judgment. So the word judgment here is meant to say people that criticize you negatively for no reason, just because they themselves aren't successful. A negative person in general that just doesn't have any reason to be a positive person, is always negative with other people, and therefore successful people, absolutely, not just successful people. I mean, everyone should ignore this kind of a judgmental person. And last but not least, as I like to say, striving for perfection. This is huge. I used to be one, and there is a school of thought that says certain personalities are more perfectionists than others. And then there's other schools of thought that say, why, if your birth date, something you had absolutely no control over, aligns with certain stars, astrology kind of thing, why that means that you're more of a perfectionist. Regardless of the actual reason why some of us are more perfectionists than others, it's not a good trait to be a perfectionist. Yes, I had to abandon my perfectionism in life because it did nothing for me. I know several people that miss the mark and are on the wrong path because they have decided that perfection is unattainable, and therefore they will settle for the next best thing. And unfortunately, settling for the next best thing, they end up missing the mark in life. We really need to define what successful people really means. I mean, there is so much school of thought out there that, oh, you know, you see these headline videos, 100 million in 7 years. Okay, well, if he reaches that, then he will have been successful. You know, oh, retire on $3 million. Okay, great. If you reach that, you will have been successful. But we see that the wisdom in life tells us that true success has nothing to do with a number, for so many different reasons, because we can stumble attempting to reach the number and ignoring our true path in life that would get us to where we really want to be in life, because nobody really wants to be at a number if they knew that their life was going to be over 1 month before they reached their number. They would no longer give any weight and credence whatsoever to that number. So it's just a number. So success has to be defined with whether you are living the life you are called to live and are meant to live in the here and now, not on a delayed life plan. That's why we make these videos, to dispel some of these things that are just going to kind of tug us from here to there, from left to right, and pull us in all kind of directions and put out information as if it's some sort of really great wisdom, when in reality all it really does, you're hearing it from somebody that's lived the retire early lifestyle for going on 40 years, all his life. So you're getting it straight from the horse's mouth, and it's got nothing to do with somebody else's idea of success. So that's the first thing we need to realize in how we get distracted into losing our real focus. So I'm glad you stayed with the video. Thanks for coming to the channel, and have a wonderful day.
Yay! Do you have a third?